there seem to be some out of the ordinary opportunities in my life right now. With healing as my only purpose, my thinking mind could not begin to tell me how to move forward with these opportunities, although it is working very hard at offering a myriad of suggestions. My only interest is what you would have me do. What would you share with me? And I guess it doesn't really matter what the specific situation was in my life. As I look at the question, I realize that this question could come up a number of times in any of our lives, where there seems to be a lot of opportunities to make decisions, to make choices, maybe about moving, maybe about changing jobs, maybe about entering a new relationship or leaving an old relationship. There's just lots of times when we're faced with what appears to be big decisions. And especially if we're completely attached to the ego has all kinds of suggestions. Often its suggestions conflict with one another, which then causes a lot of stress for us because we feel paralyzed and we don't know which decision to make. Pretty typical story, actually. So I'm admitting that I have opportunities, and I'm admitting that I know that my thinking mind has no friggin' idea what it's talking about. It's probably giving that conflicting advice. There's no way that it can help me, although it's trying very hard. And then I say my only interest is what you would have me do. What would you share with me? So here's Holy Spirit's answer. You listen to me when you do not think. So it is best to wait until you are not thinking before you attempt to listen to me. Clear your mind in this way. Number 1. Walk away from that which you are thinking about. To continue to look at it is to continue to think about it. You may then confuse thinking with guidance. Well, like I said, I don't remember what was happening in April of 2007. But let's imagine, this isn't the case, I know it isn't for me, but let's imagine that I needed to get a job. And let's imagine that I'm in some part of the job application process. I'm either trying to write a resume, or I'm trying to figure out what type of job I could get. Spirit is saying that literally to stay there working on the resume, or to stay there, looking at the want ads right now is not helpful. Because as long as I stay there in that activity, I'm going to keep thinking, right? The thinking mind is going to keep doing whatever judging it's doing, giving whatever advice it's giving. And so literally it's helpful for me to walk away from that which I'm thinking about. Put it aside. Today I was talking to the ladies on the edge of the Royal Gorge about some of the wisdom that my dad shared with me when I was growing up. And one of the things he would say, which I'm reminded of again, is sometimes you're so busy, that the best thing to do is to take the day off. And it sounds counterproductive if you got so much to do. But my dad understood that you can have so much to do and so much worry and pressure and thinking involved that you actually aren't productive. You actually aren't in the flow. And so he said that sometimes the best thing to do would be to take the day off. Spirit seems to be saying the same thing. Walk away. Whatever it is, it's still going to be there. But right now, you're so caught up in your mind that you aren't able to be clear. You aren't able to feel or hear guidance. You aren't able to be in the flow. So the best thing to do is to walk away. Step 2. Notice the thoughts you are thinking and notice they are nothing but thinking. Watch them while affirming their meaninglessness and while affirming your desire to only listen to me. Okay, so we walk away, right? We walk away. Does that mean that our mind automatically shuts up? Of course not. We walk away and the mind keeps chattering about whatever it is, right? Spirit is really asking us to use that. We walk away and the mind starts chattering. He's saying, let's watch the chattering. And for me, the way I do that is I write it down. I journal the chattering. I write down whatever thoughts are in the mind. So he says, watch the mind. Notice it's just thinking. And again, if you watch the mind closely, you're going to see that it's really ridiculous. Because the mind will tell you on the one hand, if our example is we're trying to decide which job to accept, for example, the mind will tell you on the one hand that this job is better because it has more money, it's more closely aligned to your skills, blah, 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 blah. But then it's also going to tell you, but it's too much work, it's too much pressure, and it's going to tell you that this job is better because it's more relaxed, you get more time off. But it's also going to tell you it's not enough pay. So, it isn't really saying anything. It's just, there to create pain. And if you start really looking at what the mind is saying instead of being caught up in the pain, if you can step back a bit and notice that it's advising on every side of the problem and it's disadvising on every side of the problem, you'll see that it's just not making sense. It's meaningless. So notice the thoughts you are thinking, and notice they are nothing but thinking. Just wild thoughts shooting through the brain. Watch them while affirming their meaninglessness. So we're not denying the thoughts. We're not trying to escape the thoughts. We're not even judging the thoughts. We're watching them while affirming their meaninglessness. And also while affirming our desire to listen only to guidance. Right? Then step 3. Do something else. It may take time for the thinking that is all wound up in the mind to unwind and quiet. Turn your attention away from the object or issue that seems to be stimulating the thought to another activity that is not a trigger activity for you. As you work on the non-trigger activity, continue step 2 within the mind. So, if we are experienced at forgiveness, it is possible that after step 2, after we write down our thoughts and look at them, it is actually possible that we will be at peace and we can go back and be in guidance. I know that because I do that all the time. But at the time that this message came to me, I was not yet that mature in the forgiveness process. And so going through just step 2 was still not enough for me. I may write down the thoughts, I may look at them with spirit, I may see the meaninglessness of them, but when I got up and walked away from my spiral notebook, the chatter continued, right? So, since the chattering is still continuing for a time, Spirit is not recommending that I run right back to the activity. Spirit says, do something else. And my experience is there's always something else to do. I have a friend today who I talked to on the phone early this morning, and she was upset. She had some stuff going on. And when we talked about, her process, what she realized is it would be helpful for her. She said today she was going to clean her house. Clean her house and allow the fear, allow it to be with her as she cleaned the house, but not put her attention on it, and know that it would die down, right? This is really the kind of thing Spirit is talking about. Take a walk is another popular answer. Watch a movie is another popular answer. Go do some gardening or some yard work. Go buy groceries. Go cook. Go bake. Something that is not a trigger activity for you, right? Something that is not a trigger activity for you. Some people even go to sleep. They go to sleep. They know that they will wake up and it will still be there, but they know they'll doze again, and they know that if they sleep, they will literally sleep it off. Okay? And each one of us knows what our non-trigger activity is in any particular moment if we pay any attention at all. So, do something else, right? Because it may take time for the thinking that is all wound up in the mind to unwind and quiet. So while you're doing something else, you are literally just waiting for this thing to unwind. So it's what I call a time of patience. There's a knowing that it's going to unwind. There's a trusting that it's going to unwind. You know, it reminds me of that song that I used to sing before I was on the spiritual path. The song would sing in my head whenever I was depressed. Whenever something happened that led me into depression, this song would play in my head. It's from Annie, the musical. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Right, you guys know that song? Right, the sun will come out tomorrow. No, not an old piece of coal. That's a different song I used to sing, Cliff. Right, the sun will come out tomorrow. Right, I don't know the whole song. I didn't even need the whole song. I needed those little lines right there. Whenever something happened to me where I felt, depressed, even before I was on the spiritual path, I knew it wouldn't last. Because I always knew I just had to wait and this would pass. That's what Spirit is saying here. Wait, go do something else, this is going to pass. And it's very helpful, honestly, to have that faith in your mind, that trust in your mind as you go do the something else. Because I know that you know the real power here is the mind, your mind. So it's not the doing something else that's helpful. It's the doing something else knowing that you're in a state of patience, a state of waiting, and this is going to pass, and you're just waiting. If you go do the something else, while at the same time you're listening to thoughts that are somehow saying, this is never going to end, you always do stuff like this, you can never make decisions or whatever, you can imagine that the doing something else is not going to be helpful, right? It's always about the intent, the purpose. So you go do something else in order to allow the thinking that is all wound up in the mind to unwind and quiet. And you be patient, and you wait, and you go to YouTube and you play that song from Annie, right? Tomorrow, tomorrow, whatever. I wish I knew the whole song. I would sing it to you, but I don't. Okay? Now, step 4. Don't you like it when Spirit spells it out so clearly? I mean, come on, you guys, you can print this. You know, keep it somewhere so that when you need it, you pull it out and follow it. I mean, how easy can it be? Step 4. When the mind has come to a restful place, you will begin to receive prompts from me. These prompts will come into your mind from a place that is not your effort or your thinking. And they will likely be very different from the thinking that you were doing on your own. As you recognize these prompts, affirm them and echo them within your mind so that they become a stronger part of your consciousness. As my prompts become stronger within consciousness, you will trust them more and you will act on that which you trust. Now again, this message came to me at a time when I was not at the same spiritual maturity I'm at now. So it looks like that step 4 is really teaching me how to make the voice of Holy Spirit stronger in my own mind. Right? He's teaching me how to do that. He says when the prompt comes into the mind, repeat it. Repeat it. You want to strengthen it. So let's say that we're upset about anything, right? We're upset about anything. We're upset about something our spouse just said to us. We feel the anger rising in the chest, right? And then we hear a thought come into the mind that says, take a breath. He's saying that while we're in the process of strengthening Spirit within us, we don't just take the breath. We repeat within our own mind, take a breath. We repeat the command, and then we take the breath. This repeating of prompts, when we recognize them, strengthens our ability to hear and recognize prompts. It's an exercise, and it's a simple exercise. You know, if the thought comes into the mind, and you know it feels like a prompt, the thought comes into the mind, go call so-and-so, you say, all right, go call so-and-so, and then you go do it. Right? That's not difficult to do, is it? But Spirit is saying this will strengthen our ability to hear. I want to see what Wayne is writing here. Let me move this out of the way. My hearing is so much better when I'm not noisily munching on my fearful thoughts. Right, absolutely. Another thing that's happening here, by the way, which actually reading Wayne's comment prompted me to, so thank you, Wayne, prompted me to have this thought. Another thing that is happening here when you hear a prompt and then you repeat the prompt is that you're not giving the ego the chance to argue with the prompt. Right? If you hear the prompt, go call so-and-so, and you don't fill the mind by repeating that prompt, there's a good chance the ego is going to come in and say, call him, he's going to think you're an idiot, or something like that, right? Right? So another very practical thing that's happening when you repeat the prompt is that you're actually using the mind to repeat the prompt. And since you're filling the space in the mind with the repeating of the prompt, it doesn't give ego that chance to jump in immediately and argue with the prompt. Right? A simple prompt. You know, if you are, many times when I'm talking to people who are going through difficulties, many times I recommend the practice of the single quiet thought. I recommend they take an inspiring thought, maybe something from their morning reading, maybe a thought that comes directly into their mind, something that really resonated with them. And I recommend they keep it in their back pocket, and that several times throughout the day they take it out and read it. I have a friend who's practicing that today, and she wrote me an email a while ago, and she told me what her thought was that she's carrying in her pocket, and then she told me how the ego said, that's not going to help. Right? So imagine when she goes to reach into her back pocket and fill out the prompt, she might not even have her hand fully in the pocket yet, and the ego says, that's not going to help. If she listens to that, she might not pull it out and read it, which means she didn't even give it the opportunity to help. But what if instead, when the thought comes into the mind, read your single quiet thought now, she says to herself, okay, read my single quiet thought now, as she's pulling it out. Do you see how the ego did not have a chance to get in there and stop her? So it's a very simple practice, and it's something that we're all 100% capable of doing. It's only a matter of being willing to do it. When you hear and recognize a prompt, repeat it, right? So when the mind has come to a restful place, you will begin to receive prompts from me. As Wayne said, he cannot hear when he's in fear. Spirit is also saying you cannot hear when you're in fear. Step 1, let go of the fear. Actually, that was step 1, 2, and 3. Step 4, when the mind has come to a restful place, you will begin to receive prompts from me. All right, we're at peace, and now thoughts are coming into the mind about what to do. These prompts will come into your mind from a place that is not your effort or your thinking, and they will likely be very different from the thinking that you were doing on your own. As you recognize these prompts, affirm them and echo them within your mind so that they become a stronger part of your consciousness. As my prompts become stronger within consciousness, you will trust them more, and you will act on that which you trust. You know what that means? If we're acting on ego, it means we're actually still in a state of trusting ego. There's something to think about, to look at, to ask if that's what we still want to do. Okay, step 5. Be aware. that your thinking will try to come back into the situation. Continue to follow step 2 regarding your own thinking and step 4 regarding my prompts, while remaining open to more prompts from me. Continue to affirm that you only want my guidance. Like I said, this was perfect for the spiritual maturity level I was at the time when the message came. To be honest, now, once I know guidance, once I've let go of thinking, it typically does not come back at all. It's dead. I'm done with that and it's dead. So there comes a point where you will pass the need for all 5 steps. But if you need all 5 steps, it's practicing these 5 steps that's going to get you to a higher spiritual maturity. Okay, Lord Blue, what have you got?